This part I explained to you. Some of you have rightly pointed out an error. It was just definitely an error on my part. This total can be 80. The screen is visible to you.
Yes, sir.
There are several ways in which it can be corrected. One of the ways could be that this total can be 80, and if this is 80, the net profit would become 50. Alternatively, this indirect expenses can be taken as in excess of 30. I mean, if this in order to correct it, you can take indirect income as a 10. Whichever way you do, the purpose was to illustrate what do we do with profit. Some of you have pointed out, and I have replied also in the group. So the purpose was to explain to you what does a company do with the profit it earns. So this is shown in an account known as profit and loss appropriation account. This profit and loss appropriation account is an extension of profit and loss account only, applicable for the company. This is what we completed yesterday. If you have some questions here, you can ask. Otherwise, I'll move on to what I planned for today. Any question, or should I move on? Okay, if there are no questions, this is what I intended to discuss for the day. I should have told you other day also that this is not included in the, but it somehow missed. It should have been a part of our overall curriculum, because this is something which is a necessity these days. No entry can be passed without mentioning GST, without mentioning goods and services tax. So there are certain aspects of GST which you as a student of accounting and also as a student of management should know. So these aspects I have covered in about 5 slides. So this is your scope of understanding GST from the examination or from the test point of view. It's a huge topic. It runs into pages and pages, but whatever we should know, whatever, this is what I have included. So see, what is the origin, what is the history, what rates are applicable, what are the goods which are exempted, what are the goods which are included, what are the penalties in case people don't find what was. So these are all things which do not require any discussion as such, which do not require, my intervention may not be required. Even without studying, without my discussion, without my telling to you, you can learn the history. You can, read a book and find out in which year was it introduced. In which year GST was introduced?
2017.
If you look at it history, you will find that this was prior to GST, what was the system?
VAT.
Very true, VAT. What is the full form of VAT?
Value tax.
Oh, prior to VAT, what was in practice? Sales tax. That's correct? The sales tax. So historically, you can read this for your own understanding, for your own knowledge. So I'll not interfere here. Most of my discussion would be confined to, or would be concentrated on, its recording part, and especially codifying it in debit and credit. Mostly it will concentrate on that, but still some of the concepts which one should know I have included here. There are 3 types of GST. You can say there are 3 components or types. C stands for central, S stands for state, I stand for interstate. I repeat, so CGST means collected by the central government. C stands for GST, goods and services tax, and C, the central government. We know the federal system of our country. The government is comprising of 2 systems. One is central government, we all know, and the other is state government. So if there are three forms, one is the central GST, one is state GST. What is central GST? Collected by the central government from state for transactions that are taking place within a state. State GST collected by the state government, often interstate sale for the transaction taking place within the state like UP, MP and Gujarat. Interstate collected by the central government for the interstate, and sales made from one state to another state. More of it I have provided in subsequent slides. Like revenue sharing, in most of the cases will be as follows. There will be transaction, there will be nature of tax, and then revenue sharing formula will be if the sales takes place within the state. See, sales from UP is the goods produced in UP is being sold in UP only. It will attract two types of tax, central and GST. Suppose total rate is 18%. So 9% will go to the central government and 9% will go to the state government. If the rate of tax is 28%, 14% will belong to central. Under what condition? When the sale is taking place within the state. Now, revenue will, I have mentioned here, revenue will be shared equally between the center and the state. Now, if the sale is taking place in another state, from UP, the goods are being sold in Bihar. Goods of Bihar is sold in UP. Goods of Gujarat is sold in Tamil Nadu. Goods of Tamil Nadu is sold in Pondicherry or Karnataka or Kerala or name any state. Then there will be only one type of tax, only central tax. So only the tax will be applicable to the central government, and based on a certain formula, central government will share it with the states concerned. Central government will collect, and later on share of state will be given to the states. In earlier cases, if it is a state tax, the state government keeps it directly. In this case, the only difference is it is collected by the central government, and at a later date, not immediately, at a later date, the time frame is between the two governments. Later date, it is shared. Now, the example I have just made it through examples. I have made it clear. If a businessman is operating in UP and he sells goods to a dealer in Bihar worth rupees 50,000. If we assume as tax rate is 18%, to 18% comprising only of IGST, interstate, you can say. Why is it interstate? Because goods produced or available in UP is being sold in Bihar, so it is interstate from one state to another. So he has to charge 9% as a tax, IGST. It will not be 18% IGST. This revenue will go to the central government, and thereafter the central government CG, central government will provide finances to the state government based on certain formula. Take another situation. If the same person sells goods to a consumer in UP, that is, he is operating in UP, I have written in red font, he is operating in UP, selling goods in UP only, and the applicable tax rate is 12%, then he will collect CGST, central tax of 6%, state tax of 6%. And he has to collect 6,000 as a, because 12% of 50 will be 6,000 as GST, of which 3,000 will go to the central government and 3,000 will go to the Gujarat government or whichever state the goods is being sold. So the difference between the two approaches is, in case of the central tax, it is collected by the central government, IST. In case of a state, it is collected, part of it is collected by the state directly, immediately it is credited in the state government account, from which state government meets its financial requirements. हर स्टेट को अपना अपना डेवलप करना होता है, तो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट को, एंड सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट आल्सो फाइनेंसेस, एंड द सोर्स ऑफ collecting money from the central government would be interstate GST. So 3,000 here will be collected by the center, 3,000 will be in the account of state government. Then these are the commonly used term which also you should understand. Input CGST, input SGST, input IGST. I have just written C for central government, S for state government, I for interstate. It means GST paid on purchase. This is what something important which I am highlighting here. Input means which is paid on purchases. See, broadly, a businessman will either pay GST or a businessman will collect. There will be no third possibility. I mean, with respect to GST, either a businessman or even we as an individuals, either we pay GST or we receive, but it is applicable to the business. I mean, there are several conditions. So input GST means GST which has been paid. So what is the opposite of input? We all know opposite of input is output. So what is output? Output is just opposite to input. So input means GST paid on purchases. Output means GST received on sales. If there is a businessman who is dealing in, let's say, laptops. So if the businessman purchases laptop, he is trading. So if he purchases laptop, so he is purchasing laptop for 1 lakh rupees and 10% GST he is paying, so he is paying 110. So what is this 10? 10 is input GST. Now he is selling laptop. He is selling laptop for 1,20,000. So what is this including GST? So this 20,000 is what? This is output GST. So it means GST received on sales. So again come back to the first bullet. Input GST, either sales, center or state or interstate, is something which is paid by the businessman. When he pays, when does he pay? He pays when he purchases. So this is not only applicable to purchase, it is applicable everywhere he spends money. Can you come up with some more examples of input GST? Could it be central or state, doesn't matter. What could be more examples where the word input GST will be applicable other than purchases? Yes, come on with certain example.
Sir, if we buy assets.
Sorry?
Sir, if we buy assets.
If we buy assets, correct. If the businessman is buying a building, GST he will pay. If buying furniture, he will pay. If he is paying for advertisement, he will pay. Should he pay GST on salaries also?
No, sir.
Okay, why not?
Sir, because these services are exempted from the GST.
So because you already
Any
have
other
income tax for it.
Yes. Because the more appropriate example would be that because income tax is paid on salaries. There are broadly two types of tax in our country: direct tax and indirect tax. So GST is which tax? Direct or indirect?
Indirect.
And why is it indirect?
Because the final burden is borne by the consumer.
Final burden is borne by the
Because sir, we don't have to.
Yes.
Because we don't have to pay this to the government.
You don't have to pay it directly to the government. You don't have to. It's called indirect because you are not paying it directly. Although in our life, each one of us, rich or poor, big or small, no matter what, corporate or individual, each one of us maybe any person who is even the below poverty line is paying taxes. Am I right or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What kind of taxes is he or she paying? Even if you buy a biscuit. Yes, indirect tax. Even if you buy a biscuit, the biscuit that he is buying for 5 rupees includes a component of GST which has already been paid to the government. So he is paying. Similarly, you go to a restaurant, you take meals there, you take food, you go with your friends, buy some food. If you eat for 1,000 rupees, you normally pay 1,280 rupees, maybe 1,200 rupees, let us say. So you have taken food for 1,000 and paid 200 rupees to the center and state government, depending on the place and other stuff. So this 200 has gone to the central and state government. So every transaction that takes place has a component of a tax, either direct or indirect. Okay, if the businessman pays, does not pay salary, but pays some professional fee, engages a consultant and pays him some fees, will the GST be payable on that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Payable because it is an indirect tax. It's not a salary. Okay. So different tax rates are applicable to different professions. Rate of tax differs. Taxes applicable on different professions are different. Under which category Sachin Tendulkar must be paying taxes?
High bracket.
Sorry?
High bracket. Must be paying.
I didn't get you. Can you please say it again? under which category Sachin Tendulkar must be paying taxes? Yes, any idea?
Sir, under services.
Services. What services is he rendering? Okay. Just it's not, finally decided. Services. How about Lata Mangeshkar?
Sir, services.
Services. Okay. I need not tell you, everybody knows the difference between Lata Mangeshkar and Sachin Tendulkar. Or maybe take Amitabh Bachchan. See, I am not asking the amount of taxes paid by these two persons. I am only asking the rate. The rate of tax applicable to Amitabh Bachchan and rate of tax applicable to Sachin Tendulkar. In your opinion, or Sachin Tendulkar or Virat Kohli or Priyanka Chopra, anybody, will be the same or in your opinion different?
Same.
Sir, it will be. Sir, I read about this yesterday.
Okay. Why same? One is actor, the other one is a cricketer.
Yes, sir.
It
Sir,
is.
Depend on the income of the people.
No, I am not asking. You are right. Depends on the income. One who is receiving more will pay more. My question was, some of you have written proportion to the income, like Nidal has written proportional to it. You are right. I am not asking the quantum or amount of tax. I am asking rate of tax. See, naturally, if somebody has received 1 lakh and rate of his tax is 10%, he will pay 10,000. Somebody who has received 10 lakh will pay 1 lakh. My question was about the rate, percentage. Will the percentage of tax be, for example, income from salaries? I am paying, let us say, 30%. So Khalid Sahib is also paying 30%, Parvez Sahib is also paying 30%, but maybe Faraz Sahib is not paying 30%. His rate of tax is different because of income slab. I am not asking this question. I am asking category of individuals. Sachin Tendulkar is actor, sports person. Amitabh Bachchan is actor. So somebody is writing Talha. Generally, rate of taxes to the sports person are more than what actors pay. Okay. This is what I wanted to listen. Read once again what Talha has written. Generally, rate of taxes for a sports person are more than what actors pay. Now come back to the same question that I asked you again earlier. In which category Sachin Tendulkar must have been paying taxes, as an actor or as a sports person?
Sir, Sachin Tendulkar himself is registered as an actor for tax purposes. This is what I read yesterday.
Yes, Talha, this is what I wanted to know. This is something really very, very good that you have come up with. This was basically the reason of asking question from you, question from the class. Sachin Tendulkar, with all due respect to him, nothing to do with his personality or his image and all, we are purely concentrating on accounting. So Sachin Tendulkar himself has registered as an actor for the purpose of payment of taxes. If he pays the taxes as an actor, the tax liability, let us say, will be 10 crore. And if he pays income tax, if he is categorized as a sports personality, he will pay, let us say, 15 crore. Just example I am giving you. I am also not aware of the exact amount of taxes that are payable by him. So the rate of tax are different for different category of persons. I am leaving the discussion here. We are not going into the trust. We are not going into the ethics. We are not going into anything. Only this much one should know, that if you know about the laws within legal limits, I am not saying ethical limit. There's a difference between law and ethics. At times, there may be a contradiction between what is legally correct and what is morally or ethically correct or incorrect. I'm not discussing that. What all I'm saying, legally, if a person knows law, he can save lot of taxes. We will perhaps have gone a bit more into what we were supposed to discuss. So I'm leaving the discussion here. The only idea that I wanted to let you know is that it differs from person to person, it differs from profession to profession, and accordingly accordingly it is charged. So let me come back to where were we. So you have got input tax credit, you have got output tax credit, you have output GST, then input tax credit. This is important to read. Input tax credit, when you buy a product or service from a registered dealer, you pay taxes on the purchase. Is this clear? When you sell, you receive taxes. So naturally difference between the two will be there. Taxes on sales minus taxes on purchases. This much has to be paid to the government. This mechanism is called as utilization of input tax credit. Just leave this slide for the time being. Listen to what I'm saying. When a businessman purchases something, he pays taxes. When he sells something, he receives taxes. Suppose the taxes he paid are 1,000. The taxes that he received collected from his customers are 1,200. So this 200 he will pay back to the government. What happens if it is a vice versa situation? Taxes he received were 1,000 and taxes he paid were 700. Taxes he paid were 1,300. What will happen to 300? He has overpaid 300. What will he do?
He will file ITR.
Okay, one of the options is he will file ITR. The other option could be he can carry forward. Carry forward and adjust it in next year. Okay, another question. You go to supermarket, you buy something, you look at your bill, you will find product cost 90 rupees, GST 10 rupees, total you have paid 100. So in a sense, you have also paid. Can you claim this money from the government? The product you bought was for only 90 and you have paid 100 rupees. What will happen to this 10 rupees? Can you claim?
No,
Sir, you can only claim it if you're a business, if you're using it in your business.
Not only business, if you are registered in GST and you will be registered, you may be registered as a businessman, you may be registered as a professional, you may be registered as a consultant, you may be registered as a doctor, and etc. etc. So this can be adjusted only under certain categories which I have mentioned. As an individual, I and you cannot. Okay, then what is the way out? What people might be doing? Can you have some idea? What people might be doing to recover the amount of taxes which they are paying in the form of GST?
So they must be asking bills in favor of their company.
Got it. They must be asking bills in the name of. Yes. In the name of
their company.
In the name of their company, correct. And accordingly, they must be claiming or they must be taking advantage. Do you think it is a violation of some of the accounting conventions? Is it a violation of any of the accounting conventions?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Which one?
Business entity.
Business entity. Is it a violation or they are taking advantage of the system?
Advantage of the system, sir.
Ethical or unethical?
So according to me, it's ethical only.
Ethical. When it is ethical, it will be legal also. Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Legal. All right. There is no discussion. Rather, there is no conclusion which I can arrive at. It is up to individual to classify. Something which is ethical for me may not be ethical for you. Something which is, for example, for me, even joining a class a minute late is unethical because I am paid for teaching you for 50 minutes. And say 50 minutes. If I teach you for instead of 50 minutes, I teach you for 45 minutes. So I have earned 5% unethically because 5% means 5 minutes or 50 minutes. So if I engage a class after 5 minutes or somehow knowingly I waste your 5 minutes, knowingly, I'm not saying unknowingly, today I have spent 10 minutes or something other than the class. So if I knowingly waste because I am not prepared thoroughly. I wish to, pass time like this only. And for that, I start calling your attendance. Take it very slowly. Make sure that I waste your half an hour. So whatever time I am is wasting in these activities, 5%, 10%, 50%, for me, it is unethical. And for me, unethical is a soft word, which we do not find its English equivalent, which we can say in Urdu or in our native language. For me, it is considered as haram. Now, those of you who are not well versed with the term haram, you can find out its meaning in dictionary. So for me, it is considered as haram. Some may not classify it in that category. So it is dependent on individual to individual. Therefore, no decisive comment can be made on this one, whether it is ethical or legal or moral. I was only trying to, the very purpose or scope of our discussion could be confined to its implications in accounting. So I think now the time is over. Tomorrow I'll take on this part. So better you study this in advance, last slide, and then we will move on to what is written. I will insert this one in GST and will perhaps reload it, our daily schedule, and then whatever is mentioned in your this thing, we will go on. Today, which day was it today?
20th.
20.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
28th.
20th day. Okay, 20th day on 24th. Okay. So we will discuss what is, just 1 second, what is scheduled for the day. We will discuss it. If you wish to leave, you can leave, or if you wish to ask some questions, you may please ask questions.